Alright friends, it's time to rank the 2020 Super STR units. As with all the other videos, we're looking at every LR, every Dokkan Fest, but we're limiting the other units to just the ones who debuted or got some sort of awakening this year. And if you don't know what this is, it is part of my project to tier every type by the end of 2020. We've covered Tech, Int, and Fizz so far, so check out the playlist in the description to get the scoop there. And I'll be keeping this updated in the pinned comment as we get more Super STR units in 2021. Once all these videos are done, the pinned comment will have an imager link to the current tier list in image form, so that'll be easy to keep updated. And we're ranking the units entirely based on their tier list definition, so you'll notice that units may be ranked a little differently from my top 10. So starting with the tier 1 units, these are the units that are really good. They're either incredibly versatile or they're some of the best at what they do. They have almost no weaknesses, or the weaknesses they have are super minor. These are the closest to 10 out of 10 most well-rounded units. LR Vegito is my number 1 Super STR unit. He not only has fantastic damage, but also tons of utility in his damage reduction and additional attack in his base form, or in his ability to foresee super attacks, counter normal attacks, and his built-in crit in his Super Vegito form. Overall, he's just fantastic. It just wasn't even a question. He is absolutely tier 1 material. LR Gogeta starts off really great and then just gets better from there. He's got a 50% dodge chance, which helps to mitigate his somewhat low defense stat. He's got great links, a good leader skill, and is overall just fantastic. While the defense stat isn't where I would like it to be, the weakness is quite minor compared to just how good he is at everything else. And LR UI Goku. I'm not really sure I even need to justify this, but I will anyway. He has a great dodge chance that builds up his stats really quickly, he has a strong attack stat, one of the strongest of the units we have here, and he works as a great linking partner for a good handful of other awesome units. LR Vegito Blue is still one of the best free-to-play units in the game. He stacks attack and defense on his 12 key, but he does have one major issue. He gives himself a lot of ki, and that makes it hard to consistently get his 12 key off, but you'll find that even without it, he's still doing pretty great offensively. Without the stacks, he's going to need items, but it's not like his defense is necessarily bad. He's got good categories, good links, and while he's outclassed by his Fizz counterpart, I do think he's worthy of tier 1. Whis is one of the best units at what he does. While he does have a niche supporting Beerus, he brings plenty more to the table, like a fantastic dodge chance that helps bulk him up in case he does get hit. He debuffs enemies on his super attack, and he does seal. While he'll be limited to supporting in the Legendary Goku event, he'll be quite good in most Infinite Dragon Ball history stages and definitely in Super Battle Road. He ends up in tier 1 because of his versatility and just how good he is when he's allowed to go off. He does have a niche, but he's not limited by it. World Tournament support Gohan is a good support and a good tank. The damage reduction lets him tank Int UI Goku's super attack in the Legendary Goku event for 110,000 damage. He's versatile with a 30% support and 30% stun chance, and while his offense is lacking, he's tier 1 because he's quite good at what he does and isn't really taking much away from his team, since unlike a lot of other supports, he's not a defensive liability. Toppo was already a decent support before his EZA, but now he's not nearly as fragile. He's got decent attack and defense as well as damage reduction once you fall under 70% HP. He's kinda similar to Physical Android 17. He's a pretty good floating support on many teams and works very nicely on the new Universe 11 category for LR Jiren. So while I don't really like Jiren, I've gotta admit that he had some nice indirect buffs recently with LR Tech Jiren, Toppo's EZA, and the Universe 11 units. He's also gotten better with the link level update and his damage is pretty respectable now. With only 30% support at level 10 links, he's hitting close to 3 million. With items and the floating supports, he'll be defensive enough to take on long form content, and while his AoE stun chance is low, it will come in clutch at times for Super Battle Road. He doesn't have any major weaknesses, so he does make it on tier 1 for how well rounded he is. So Super Saiyan 3 Goku is quite good. I talked about this in depth in my top 10 video, but he's got a good link set, he guards against all attacks, he has good damage, he stuns, and then he gets damage reduction if he's paired with more Dragon Ball Heroes units. He's able to fit on teams without Dragon Ball Heroes units, but he will do even better with them. He makes it onto tier 1 because he's good offensively, defensively, and doesn't have any major weaknesses. LR Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta is a little boring, but that doesn't mean he's a bad unit. He's got good stats, he reaches his 18 key easily, he links well with other Super Saiyan 4 units, and his sub lead lets him run Super Saiyan 4 Goku so that they can stay together. He's not flashy, but he's solid. Bardock and Gine do need a Goku unit on the team, but being the main character, there are plenty of Gokus to choose from in most of their categories. While it should be limiting in theory, it really isn't in practice. They also don't need to be on a rotation with the Goku, so it really isn't that hard to make it work and bring their offense to Dokkan Fest level. They get an extra bonus if they're facing a movie bosses or Frieza enemy, but they don't need to rely on it. They make it into tier 1 because they don't really have any weaknesses that you need to worry about. Tier 2 units are still very good, but they have 1 or 2 weaknesses that really keep them from being tier 1 material. These weaknesses don't necessarily limit their use in teams, but they are things that you're going to want to consider. Namek Goku has an easy transformation condition, but he does take a while to build up his defense. He has a low chance to guard against all attacks, but he will get it for 3 turns once it activates once. He's got good damage in both his base and Super Saiyan form, but he doesn't stack defense until he transforms, so you really need to hurry and get him angry so you can start stacking in long form content. Additionally, he does suffer in Super Battle Road, so he ends up not being the first choice for any endgame content. He still works when he gets a chance to stack, and he still has good damage and a good leader skill, so he still makes it as a tier 2 unit. Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku is a contentious one in the community. When you look at his passive, a lot of it is pretty restrictive and he seems a bit weak defensively. A lot of people see him as a glass cannon, and that's a little true, but he actually tanks okay when he's built up. Getting there is a bit rough, so he's going to be a glass cannon in Super Battle Road, which isn't great, but the other thing to mention here is that his offense actually does make him worth it. His damage potential is crazy. Greatly stacking attack on top of the boosts he gets from his passive ends up being amazing, even when we don't consider the extra boosts he gets from being under 59% HP and having 3 representatives of Universe 7 units, because ideally, you don't want to be in a position where you have to rely on that. But even without that or his active skill, he's still doing incredible damage. On top of all of that, he's a leader and a linking partner for some of the best units in the game, like LR-UI Goku and the LR Blue Boys. He's in tier 2 because while his defense issues do limit him somewhat, he has more than enough to make up for it. Kefla is one of my absolute favorite units, and I really wanted to put her on my top 10, but in practice, her need to get 6 or more orbs does tend to be a little bit restrictive. There are a couple orb changers that you can put on her team for her, like Physical Kefla, Intivados, or STR Kaba, but her reliance on them keeps her from being a tier 1 unit for me. If you can get her those orbs, she's absolutely fantastic though. And I ranted a lot about Kale in the top 10 video, but man, she is so good. The one thing that keeps her from being a tier 1 unit is her reliance on having a Khalifa unit on the rotation with her. She has several options to choose from, but needing another unit keeps her out of tier 1 for me. Even as just a normal SSR, Super Saiyan 4 Bardock is pretty dang great. He seals, gets attacks effective against all types, and he gets guaranteed crit as long as you have over 90% HP. While he doesn't have to have crossover allies, they do give him the extra boost he needs to do well. What keeps him in tier 2 is actually his low base stats as an SSR. Super Saiyan Great Saiyaman is a pretty decent Majin Buu Saga support. Unfortunately, he only has a 50% chance for his sealing to work, which is not great. However, he does share good links with other Majin Buu Saga units, so he'll work well as a floating support. When LR Beerus and Whis are paired with either STR Whis or Intivados, they are fantastic. Most of their links will be active, and they just need to get hit once every few turns to have great damage. He doesn't tank extremely well, but it's not too bad. His reliance on those 2 supports keeps him in tier 2 for me. Hotchan brings tons of utility to the table. He lowers enemy attack and defense, he stuns, he guards against all, and he's got damage reduction. While that's fantastic, he does rely on having a Goku's family unit on the team, and he does have to be hit once for his guard all and for his great attack boost. If you can find room on an Int Kid Goku's team, he's definitely going to be a unit that should be included. He's tier 2 for me because while he does rely on the Goku's family units, I don't feel like that restricts him to just a niche. He's definitely best on the Dragon Ball Saga team, but he can be run on Exploding Rage to get LR Gohan to transform. Tier 3 consists of units that are still good but have their usage in teams held back by 1 or 2 major weaknesses. Super Saiyan 4 Goku has no defense outside of what you get from his super attack. While he works as a good partner for LR Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and he's pretty strong offensively, his defense definitely tends to be an issue for him. And maybe I just had too high of expectations for this one, but EZA 1000 Day Goku is a little underwhelming. After the EZA, he's hitting decent damage and supporting the team, but his wonky links hold him back a bit. Funnily enough, he does work as a partner for LR Physical Kid Gohan, but I don't know. He's not a bad unit, but at the same time, he's not that good. Comparatively, EZA Kaioken Goku is actually pretty decent. He starts pretty slow, but once you fall under 77% HP, he's doing pretty great offensively. He's in tier 3 because he does have a bit of a defense issue and his links aren't great. He's got shocking speed, over in a flash, and shattering the limit, which is kind of weird for him to have all 3, and then the Z Fighter Goku links. Saiyan lineage isn't bad though. I really like LR Bipan conceptually. She's an LR focused on support. Her active skill is excellent, she heals a lot, and she has a small chance to stun the enemy. The issue is that a unit like that needs to also be defensive so she's not a liability. While she does have good damage reduction, she only has a 50% chance of it activating, and if it doesn't, you're going to be taking a lot of damage in endgame content. She's very reliant on her damage reduction activating, and while she's a great support, that does limit her a lot and puts her in tier 3. While this Vegeta's stacks are calculated separately, his stats are just too low to really get him where he needs to be. He's got good links and good categories, but he's not going to be the first choice for Super Saiyan Vegetas on a team. I think that you folks are going to think that I'm being a little bit too hard on the type supports, but Kappa himself is not that great. While his support is of course fantastic and it makes him a nice partner for several good units, he doesn't really bring anything else to the table. He has the nuker issue on his offense, and he has temporary stacking in his super attack. He's still a good unit and he's not niche because he does have several teams he works well in, but he is still a little limited by his own capabilities. EZA Gogeta has a bit of a defense issue. He debuffs attack and defense in his super, but without decent defense that doesn't do too much for you. He's gonna get hit pretty hard in Super Battle Road. However, he does have good damage and his attack's effective against all type definitely helps there. He's a bit of a glass cannon. But this next one is definitely the opposite. Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta is a fantastic tank in short form content. He has 80% damage reduction for the first 10 turns, so he'll really just eat up any super attacks that come his way, and he's also got a 50% chance to stun, which helps him a lot in Super Battle Road, and the reason why he's here and not higher is that his offense is not great, and his defense is going to run out in mid and long form content. Tier 4 is the niche tier. This is where we put units that only really serve one niche and aren't really preferable elsewhere. Baba Shop Krillin gets 50% damage reduction when his guard is active, so he fills a nice niche as a tank versus physical units. While he does also get a 50% chance to guard against all attacks, it's not really ideal to have something so chance based when that's all he's bringing to the table. He's got bad links, bad offense, and pretty bad defense if the guard isn't active. Vegex is a defense stacker that also stacks crit chance. He's got SSR stats, but he does double super if the enemy is debuffed. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any way to debuff on his own, so he serves a really weird niche as a usable unit in long form content that'll let you fulfill some of the legendary Goku event missions for time travelers. He also works in Patara, but there are a lot of better options there. He's not necessarily bad, but he's only going to be good in specific situations. When he gets an awakening, I'm sure he'll be better, but for right now, he's in tier 4. Free-to-play Bardock seals and gets 50% damage reduction on the Team Bardock team. Unfortunately, outside of that, there are way better Bardock units. He's not great, but he functions pretty well when using the free-to-play Bardock squad. This Gotenks is a pretty decent support when facing multiple enemies and has a stun chance, so that leaves him for use in Super Battle Road. He's not that good outside of that though, and that leaves him in a niche spot. Free-to-play Goten is a decent Goku's family support, but there are better options there. While he does have low stats, he also offers a little utility for Super Battle Road in his attack debuffing, so he can fill a niche as a budget Goku's family support, but he's not really good outside of that. Tier 5 units are the ones that are a little bad. They're usable if you have to, but they're not that good. EZA Beerus is a decent worthy rival support, but his offense is entirely chance-based with only a 50% chance to activate, and his defense is just so-so. He doesn't have any partners in the category, so he's just going to be a floater. Bring him if you need some support, but that's it. Super Ribrianne got the worst of the 3 girls' EZAs. She's got good healing, but she doesn't stack any of her stats like Rosie and Kakunsa do. She has okay but not good damage, and her reliance on needing to be with Peppy Gal units means she isn't splashable as a floating healer for most teams, and she's not going to be good for endgame content outside of the healing. Grandpa Gohan and Pan don't offer much outside of their damage, and their damage is pretty mediocre. Tier 6 is where we stick the smelly garbage tier units. These are pretty bad. Ultimate Gohan is well known as one of the worst Dokkan Festival exclusives. He only has the defense he gets from his support, which isn't much, and a 25% chance to guard against all attacks. His offense is mediocre, his links are awful, he's just bad overall. And as much as I hate to do it, free-to-play Khalifa is pretty bad. Her dodge chance is okay if you got enough Universe Survival Saga allies, which you probably do if you're running her. However, if her dodge doesn't go off, she has barely any defense and free-to-play stats, so she won't be tanking well. Her offense is atrocious, and while she does get an additional attack when paired with a Kale, it is only a 25% chance to be a super. If you really need a Khalifa, you can use her, but she's not great. Tier 7 is the meme tier. These units are so bad that they're fun. They're mostly just trophy units, like Spanking Hercule, who we could get during the 6-year anniversary for JP. He's just bad all around, but the art can give you a good laugh. This Yamcha is in the same situation. He's also just a terrible unit, but worth having in your box. And that's it for this one. Stay tuned for the top 10 Extreme STR units coming soon. And before I go, I want to thank everyone for being patient with me. With my IRL work schedule right now, it's been a bit tough keeping these up week to week, so I am a little behind right now, but I'm trying to do my best to get them out as quickly as possible. I'm on the home stretch though, so it's going to be great to have this project finished, and hopefully it can be a nice resource for you all. Now I'm off, so I hope you all have a good day, a good week, a good life, and happy summons. Goodbye.